NID Headquarters, Washington D.C, 2100 hours. Once Willow arrived at the NID headquarters, she was met by Agent Barrett. Apparently, O'Neill had called ahead about Willow visiting later that night after her briefing. Willow and Barrett shook hands before he led her into the building, through the lobby, and past one of several secured doors and into an elevator that descended 4 floors. They stepped out into a brightly lit corridor, and Barrett guided her through yet another secured door. Beyond it, several guards patrolled hallways lined with numbered doors. Barrett led Willow down one such hallway. Willow reminded herself to mentally reach out to Xander and Faith. Before that, Barrett stopped at Buffy's door. Willow looked through the shatterproof glass at Buffy lying on a cot. Willow gently reached out to her mind, asking if she was okay. Buffy turned her head toward Willow, pressed her lips together, and then turned away. It was the same with Giles and Dawn. The latter actually shouted at Willow to get away from her, Buffy, Xander, and the others. She is really angry, Barrett remarked just before Dawn leaned into the glass and screamed. Dawn yelled that Willow was persona non grata and to stay away. Despite knowing how Dawn felt, Willow still wanted to help her, since she hadn't really, technically, done anything other than express how much she hated her. I wanna try to save her future, Willow murmured. Barrett nodded before she moved on toward Xander's room. Xander was lying on a cot, like Buffy. He turned toward Willow, his demeanor more exhausted than anything else. He sat up and gave her a small nod. Willow sent him a mental message, explaining that she had spoken with the President, her superiors, and the Attorney General. She told Xander she had done all she could, and now it was up to the higher-ups. She added that she hoped they would listen. Willow chose not to share yet what she had sensed in the minds of the President and the others when they learned of the Watchers Council's demise, that they were already wondering if there was a way to create a program resembling the Council, complete with oversight. Willow suspected that was something they would discuss back in the Oval Office. She gave Xander a small nod before moving on. In the second to last room was Josh, pacing before stopping to stare at her. Willow could feel his anger directed at her. He sighed before reaching out mentally. I'm sorry about your sister. I never knew about the Unmaker or all the murders, and I can't tell you what would have happened if I... He mentally snapped at her to leave him alone. Willow inclined her head and continued on. The last person she visited was Faith, who stood up from her cot with her hands in her pockets, visibly relieved to see Willow. Willow turned to Barrett and asked him to open the door. Sensing his unease, she reassured him that she just wanted to talk to Faith and that he could wait outside. Barrett took a deep breath, looking thoughtful before nodding. He pulled out his radio and ordered the door open. It clicked, and Willow opened the door and stepped inside. Willow closed the door behind her and mentally asked Faith how things were going at the NID. Faith explained that the agents had interviewed her about Willow's kidnapping, the hacking, and everything else. They hadn't asked anything about magic. As Faith sat on the cot and Willow took a nearby chair, Faith asked about the NID. I take it they know nothing about magic and stuff? Willow shook her head. How did your meeting with the big guy go? Faith leaned forward. I had to tell him everything, Faith, about Sunnydale, the Watchers Council, the Slayer, magic, and he wasn't freaked out by it? Faith's eyes narrowed. Willow masked the truth in her mental reply. Oh, he was. He just did a good job of hiding it. It wasn't too bad. Faith took a deep breath. The knowledge of demons, vampires, magic, and monsters was out there now. She didn't know how to feel about that, if she were honest. A part of her hoped that someone else taking over the hunting and slaying could give her a chance to do her own thing. Until now, it had just been her and Buffy, along with a ragtag group of friends and, in the case of the former Slayer Council, secret donors who knew about the supernatural, but they had never had anything backing them like the government, an agency that could do far more than the Watchers Council ever had. When will we know what's going to happen to us? Faith asked. I'm not sure. The AG is going to review the reports and the files, and then we'll see what happens. He's definitely going to interview all of you again. What's going to happen to us? Faith pressed. I don't know. I feel sorry for Dawn, Faith admitted. If she goes to jail, well, her future... She hates my guts, Willow replied with a sigh. I don't think she'll want any help from me, but that doesn't mean I'll stop trying. How's Buffy? Faith asked. She's in shock, I guess. She never thought it would come down to this. What about Sunnydale? Faith continued. The Hellmouth's kind of undefended now. You think you can get some of your military guys to... I don't know. I don't know. I think the president wants to do something about it, but the decision on how to handle the supernatural will be made by people way above my pay grade. You know Buffy won't be happy with that, Faith pointed out. She'll hate the government interference. I know, Willow agreed, but all of this is happening because of what happened in Sunnydale. Maybe it will be for the best. Willow leaned forward. Have you ever thought about doing something different? She knew it was selfish to ask, but for this one moment, she allowed herself that selfishness, just to imagine that dream of hers coming true. Other than continue to be a slayer? Faith narrowed her eyes. Such as? Have you ever thought about it? Willow pressed gently. Faith pressed her lips together before answering. Yeah, I've wondered what it would be like to be someone who does things that aren't just beating back demons and vampires. But that's not really my destiny. What if you could do something that still helps people, but doesn't involve the supernatural? Faith arched an eyebrow. Red, my entire existence is about dealing with the supernatural. But what if you could do something different and still help people? I have an idea, but just think about it. Faith nodded slowly. Willow stood, calm expression settling over her face, one that made Faith uneasy about what she might be planning. Willow told Faith mentally that she would return soon, then asked Agent Barrett to open the door. Just before stepping out into the hallway, Willow turned back and gave Faith a small, reassuring smile, followed by a nod. Faith returned it, and the door closed, leaving her alone once more. In truth, Faith wanted a life beyond just being a slayer. But that was what she was, a slayer. And with the Slayer Council shattered, who else could take responsibility for the Hellmouth in Sunnydale and the supernatural threats? Exiting the NID building in downtown DC, Willow pulled her phone from her pocket and typed out a message to O'Neill. Sir, I have an idea. An SGC-backed program based in Sunnydale to deal with the Hellmouth and supernatural-related threats. There are people who weren't involved in what happened to me, and I think they would be perfect for something like this. And there's one more thing. I want to talk about Faith joining the SGC. Near Plaza Hotel. Willow spotted the lights of the hotel a couple of blocks away. She turned and quickly slipped into a nearby Chinese restaurant to grab some dinner. Before long, she stepped back out with a bag in hand. Almost immediately, she noticed someone familiar walking in her direction. The first thought that crossed her mind was, "Unbelievable, I told him not to interfere." As he drew closer, only a few steps away, Willow murmured, "Angel?" The light from a nearby lamppost reflected off his face. There was no mistaking it. It was Angel. She pressed on, her tone sharpening. "What are you doing here? I told you not to interfere and..." "Sorry, miss." The man she had mistaken for Angel halted and took a small step back, raising his hands to his chest. "I'm afraid you have the wrong person." Willow sensed waves of confusion radiating from him as he regarded her with a puzzled expression. Now that she stood closer, she realized this man was older, more like an older version of Angel. It was frankly eerie how closely he resembled him, from the more sculpted jawline to the same eyes. Shaking her head, Willow apologized. "Oh, sorry about that." He wore a pressed black suit and trousers, a belt buckle stamped with the word hockey, and carried a paper to-go bag. She added, "You look just like a friend I know." "What can I say?" the stranger replied with a shrug. "I guess I have one of those faces?" He then asked whether this lookalike had been bothering her, noting how worried she had looked just moments ago. Willow shook her head in response. The Angel Doppelganger reached into the inner lining of his suit jacket, pulled out a card, and handed it to her. "Just in case." "Agent Seeley Booth," Willow read aloud, studying the card embossed with the FBI logo. She thanked him just before he gave a brief nod, turned, and hurried off, likely heading for a late night at the office. Willow stared at the card, murmuring, Angel has a doppelganger." She continued toward her hotel, marveling at how two people could look so alike, yet have little to no connection, existing simultaneously without ever knowing of each other. She couldn't help but wonder if she had a doppelganger somewhere out in the world. After nearly 20 more minutes of walking, she reached her hotel room. She set her to-go bag on the nearby table and immediately went to wash up. Once finished, she ate her dinner while watching some TV, then picked up her phone and messaged Cassie, who had started her biology major at Georgetown just a month ago. Willow chuckled while composing and then sending the last message of the night that she would see Cassie the day after next. After receiving a message from Cassie that simply stated, "Good night," Willow plugged her phone into the charger and turned in for the night. Despite everything that had happened yesterday in Sunnydale and at the Oval Office just a few hours earlier, she felt hopeful about getting a good night's sleep. The moment she closed her eyes and rested her head on the pillow, she drifted off. Gate room, SGC. Willow did not know how long it had been before she heard klaxons blaring all around her. She snapped her eyes open and found herself in the gate room facing the Stargate. The red emergency lights were active as she stood on the ramp wearing her full combat BDUs, complete with a P90, the regulation 9mm sidearm, a ZAT, along with her tactical vest and a combat knife. "Okay," Willow murmured as she turned and walked down the ramp. "This is a weird dream to have." She could sense things were very, very wrong. Not only was the air stuffy, as if the recyclers were not working, but it also carried the horrible stench of decay. The gate room looked as if it had been shot up. She noticed numerous scorch marks from Jaffa staff weapons, along with bullet holes from Tauri weapons along the walls and floors. The control room windows were shattered, their glass scattered across the floor of the gate room. Willow stepped off the ramp and hurried out. The klaxons continued to blare. She took the immediate right turn onto the stairs that led up to the control room. Running up the stairs, she suddenly stopped. At the top, she found something that would stay in her mind forever. "Bodies," Willow whispered into the destroyed control room. 6 bodies lay on the floor with blast marks, and one slumped over a console. "My God, what happened here?" Willow closed her eyes and centered herself. She scanned the immediate area with her mind and found nothing. Literally nothing. There were no active thoughts anywhere near her. There were no active thoughts anywhere around her. She unhooked her P90 from the front of her vest, raised it, and cautiously moved through the control room, ready to fire at any hostile movement. There were only the bodies of dead SGC personnel. Willow then climbed the metallic stairs to the briefing room. The P90 aimed forward. She could feel her breathing deepen, her heart beginning to race as thoughts of what could have happened and why she would be experiencing something like this ran through her mind. There were more bodies in the briefing room, all SGC personnel. What the hell is going on here? Willow hurried to one of the bodies. It was Walter Harriman. He bore blast marks, as did the other 4. The walls were scorched as well, poke-marked with bullet holes. She continued past the broken windows and door of Hammond's office. Willow glanced inside. Hammond was not there. She moved past quickly, thinking, "This isn't a dream, it's a nightmare." She rushed into a nearby armory where the weapon racks were empty. Willow pressed on. There were more bodies, and blood in the hallway. This time, there were also the bodies of various Jaffa, their forehead marks indicating allegiance to different Goa'uld system lords, including Lord Yu and Baal. She picked up a radio from one of the fallen SFs and selected an encrypted channel. As she pressed the transmit button, Willow wondered if this nightmare followed the kind where the dreamer had to complete an action before waking. Maybe that's what this is. I have to call for help and survive until it arrives? This is Sierra Golf Charlie, requesting immediate assistance. Does anyone read? Willow spoke into the radio before releasing the button. She waited a minute. There was no response. After another minute, she pressed the button again. This is Sierra Golf 1-5. I'm requesting immediate assistance. Does anyone read? Willow stared at the radio in her hand in surprise. Still no response. She could not use this radio to contact the Prometheus. The range was too limited. She would have to return to the control room instead. But she had seen the consoles. They were all destroyed. It was possible any means of contacting the Prometheus was gone as well. She continued down the hallway. The klaxons blared on. The stench lingered, and the red emergency lights made it seem as though shadows were shifting along the walls. Willow stopped and closed her eyes. It's just my imagination. She tried to sense anyone nearby, any thoughts at all, but found nothing. As she moved through the SGC, all she encountered were the dead bodies of both SGC personnel and Jafar. Some areas, like the mess hall, looked like miniature war zones. After wandering for some time, trying to make sense of it all, Willow found herself outside Colonel Carter's lab. She stepped inside slowly, every sense heightened. She knew something was wrong even before she turned on the lights. When the lights flickered on, she saw everything. Computers, files, anything not bolted down, ransacked. She stared around the room in shock before her gaze landed on a body. She gasped and stepped back. A few steps in front of her lay what appeared to be Lieutenant Colonel Samantha Carter's body, half her face blasted away, with additional blast wounds across her chest and abdomen. Willow only recognized her by the last name stitched onto the dark blue BDUs. Willow looked away and continued down the hallway. She needed answers. She tried to call the elevator once she reached the lobby, but it did not work. Instead, she entered the emergency stairwell and climbed upward, pausing at intervals to catch her breath until she reached the exit leading to the parking structure near the NORAD entrance. As she pushed through the heavy metal door into the parking lot, she feared this might be a foothold situation. Even in a dream, she felt exhausted. The door clicked shut behind her. After taking several deep breaths, she raised her weapon and moved cautiously forward. What she saw made her stomach tighten. Bodies littered the asphalt, and numerous cars were scorched or riddled with bullet holes. She passed fallen Jafar, civilians, and uniformed SFs, sticking to the shadows as she advanced. Upon reaching the entrance to the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, Willow performed another mental sweep. She felt intense hatred. She stopped and crouched. Willow had felt this kind of hatred before, from the Jafar. She was sensing the rage of the symbiotes within them. Moving carefully, she edged forward until she could see the sunlit entryway, the security gate, and the road beyond. Then she spotted them. 3 armored Jafar stood near a Teltac transport ship a few meters to the right of the gate. Whatever had happened inside the SGC, and likely throughout the mountain, the Goa'uld were responsible, and now 3 Jafar stood nearby. She could get answers from them. It was 3 against 1, but they did not know about her telekinesis. She remembered the day Fraser died, what she had done to the Jafar then. Reaching out telekinetically, she grasped the symbiotes within their pouches and squeezed. Both host and symbiote felt the pain. She did the same now while clipping her P90 back onto her vest. Stepping out of the shadows, she approached the 3 Jafar as they doubled over in agony. She could have simply pulled information from their minds, but whether that would make her cruel was a question for later. This was a dream, after all. No harm, no foul. Still, in this dream, the Goa'uld had breached the SGC, and Willow felt anger rising at what had been done to everyone in the mountain. She needed answers. "Hey there, fellas," Willow greeted, closing the distance between them. They looked up at her, their faces twisted with pain and fury, before collapsing again. Willow placed her hands on her hips. "When is your next shift change?" "We will not answer," one of the Jaffa snarled before collapsing onto the asphalt in agony. Willow caught his thoughts easily, her expression cooling. "Thank you," she replied evenly. "So your next shift change is in 4 of my hours. That gives me time to ask as many questions as I want." The Jaffa screamed, the remaining 2 dropping to the ground, clutching their symbiote pouches. "What happened to everyone?" "Everyone is dead," the Jaffa Rekan gasped. They have been annihilated." "Who is your master?" Willow pressed, crouching in front of Rekan as he writhed on the street. "Anubis," cried another Jaffa, whom she had learned was called Jatak. He was clearly struggling not to scream in pain. He growled, his eyes locked onto Willow. "Please, mercy." "Anubis is dead," Willow replied coolly. "We killed him." "You cannot kill a god," the one named Tonnell muttered. He had been lying on the asphalt, but now he was attempting to rise despite the pain. "Stay down," Willow ordered, discharging her Zat. A stream of blue electricity struck him, and he collapsed instantly, unconscious. She kept her grip tight on the weapon, not lowering it. Who was responsible for the carnage in the mountain? Willow demanded angrily as she turned toward the remaining two Jaffa. "Our Lord Anubis strode in through their Chapai with his Kull warriors and Jaffa," Jetak replied, a smile breaking through his pained expression. "We did not participate in the battle, but we have heard the stories of how he waged glorious war against your Stargate command. They were punished for defying their god." Anubis, Willow thought. She pictured the Goa'uld emerging through the Stargate with his Kull warriors, storming the control room, the massacre on the floors she had seen, the death of Colonel Carter. Anubis was responsible for it all. But how? How was he alive? And more importantly, how had he obtained the codes to the iris? No one would have allowed him through without them. How did he get the iris codes? Willow mentally forced Jetak's face into the hot asphalt. "How the fuck did he get the codes?" she shouted. "He is a god," Rekhan declared. "He knows all." "If we had been among the first wave," Jetak continued gleefully, ignoring the pain from the pressure on his symbiote and his head grinding against the road, "we would have been proud to kill as many of you Tauri as possible. Then die at the hands of a Tauri, you murderous ass." Willow snarled. She fired twice with the Zat. Then she turned to the last remaining Jaffa and aimed the weapon at him. "You are Rekhan of Chulak," Willow stated. "How do you know?" Rekhan asked, still writhing in pain, his eyes fixed on hers. "Do you know Teal'c?" Willow pressed, ignoring his question. "Yes," he answered, his voice strained. "Where is he?" "The Sholva is dead," Rekhan replied with a grim smile, "along with his son and the Sholva Braytak. The entire rebel Jaffa leadership has been annihilated." "What?" Willow exclaimed, incredulous. "They dared to betray their god," Rekhan crowed, laughing despite the pain, "and they were justly punished." "No, no, no," Willow murmured, turning away. "This is madness. What kind of nightmare is this?" She faced him again. "Where is SG-1? She asked quietly. "The greatness that comprised SG-1 was the first to perish," Rekhan laughed, squeezing his eyes shut in agony. "My comrades had the honor of dispatching Teal'c, his son, and Braytak on Chulak, while Lord Anubis personally executed the Tauri female known as Carter within the mountain. Oh, so many tales have spread about the Carter woman's demise. The most popular one claims she fell to her knees and begged for her life before Lord Anubis sent her soul to the underworld. The ones known as O'Neill, Jackson, and the female Summers will meet their end today at sundown. After their lives are extinguished, the resistance against Lord Anubis will fall." "Wait, Summers? Which Summers are you talking about?" Willow demanded. "I do not know," Rekhan laughed. "It does not matter. They shall all perish this day." "Where?" Willow's voice sharpened. "Where?" she screamed, tightening her mental grip on the symbiote. Suddenly, she received a mental image. The White House lawn. It was burning. There was smoke everywhere. "You cannot stop him," Rekhan shouted. He could sense his end approaching. "This world belongs to Lord Anubis now. The Tauri have fallen. You will show me how to fly the Teltac," Willow stated in an eerily calm tone. "Never," Rekhan grinned. "That wasn't a question," Willow replied, holstering her Zat before seizing both sides of his head. "I'll just learn what I need from your mind." Within minutes, Willow had extracted the basics of piloting a Teltac and running its scans. Once she had what she needed, she released him and struck him across the face, knocking him unconscious. The action reminded her of what Josh had attempted at the Slayer Council HQ only a day ago. "No, it's not the same," Willow muttered to herself. "They wanted information to satisfy their own curiosity and self-importance. I did it to save people. No, not just people, my friends. Nothing will stop me, and hopefully by saving them, I'll wake up from this nightmare." She rose slowly and made her way to the Teltac, beginning the free flight checks. After confirming everything was in order, she stepped back out of the Goa'uld vessel and approached the Jaffa lying on the ground. Drawing her Zat, she activated it and aimed it at the remaining bodies. She recalled what Colonel O'Neill had told her during her training with the Goa'uld weapon. "Remember, Red, the first shot stuns, the second kills, the third makes them go away, for good." Willow fired multiple times at the Jaffa until their bodies disintegrated completely. When it was done, she returned to the Teltac, sealed the hatch, and took her seat in the cockpit. She plotted a course for Washington D.C. and engaged the cloak before taking off. While cloaked, Willow made a quick flyby over Colorado Springs. What she saw left her shaken. The entire city was nearly leveled. Massive scorch marks scarred the landscape, and from her altitude, she could make out even larger burn patterns, suggesting orbital bombardment by Guaul Hatak-class motherships. Her next destination was the Air Force Academy. As she approached, she saw nothing. No buildings, no fields. Even the chapel that once drew tourists was gone. Then the ship's sensors detected debris, fragments of large engines, communication arrays, and computer systems. Among the wreckage, there was an active distress beacon. Her fear was confirmed. The Prometheus had been destroyed. It was gone. The devastation of the Academy had been caused by the Prometheus crashing into it. The Goa'uld had eliminated Earth's only space-worthy battlecruiser, and with its destruction, Earth was now defenseless. Why didn't our allies come? What happened to the Asgard? What happened to the ancient defense platform in Antarctica? Willow wondered as she surveyed the damage before firing up the engines to full power and heading toward DC. She suspected all her questions could be answered there. As she flew over cities and countryside on the way to DC, she saw the same situation everywhere. Untold destruction, level cities. It looked more like a post-apocalyptic future in a cheesy science fiction movie, but her scans showed that there were survivors among the ruins. They must be simply existing with no hope. Willow murmured to herself, "This is bad. This is so bad." It took Willow under 30 minutes to fly the Teltac from Colorado Springs to Washington, D.C. Once she arrived, she slowed the ship's engines as she surveyed the devastation, shock etched across her face. Most of the city was destroyed. The Washington Monument lay shattered, with half of it collapsed onto the grass and the other half still standing, though crumbling. The flagpoles that had once encircled the monument no longer held flags. Instead, bodies hung from them. There was an absolute perversion of the monument's spirit. Where the Capitol building had stood was now a massive crater. The mall was utterly devastated. Yet, amidst the ruin, she noticed lights and what appeared to be a tent city. Willow realized the only structure that was still standing was the White House, which she guessed served as Anubis' seat of power. As she flew over it, she spotted numerous Jaffa guarding the entrances, with plasma cannons positioned strategically along the perimeter and on the roof. She ran a scan for human life signs inside the White House and detected 4. Based on what she had been told at Cheyenne Mountain, General O'Neill, Daniel, and one of the Summer sisters could be among them. Willow knew in her heart that all of this was just a dream. Whatever actions she took here would wake her up in the real world and free her from this twisted nightmare. Everything felt far too vivid. She also knew she had 3 options: land the ship somewhere outside and sneak in, land directly in the White House garden after telekinetically killing the Jaffa, or simply crash the ship into the building and hope for the best. She chose the second option. Since the ship was cloaked, she hovered above the defensive positions and used the telekinesis to kill the symbiotes, causing the Jaffa guarding their posts to die in visible agony. Once she sensed that all the Jaffa outside were dead, she landed the cloaked ship in the White House garden. After landing, she stood by the closed hatch and checked her ammo and weapons, ensuring she was ready. Quick mental scan of the immediate area revealed no threats, no Kull warriors, no Jaffa. I guess they haven't found the bodies yet, she thought. She pressed the door release and took cover as it opened. No one stormed in, no one fired. Since no one's shooting at me, I'll assume that my mental scan was right, she muttered.
Yes, you are correct.
Who is this?
Hello, Willow Rosenberg of the Tauri.
Willow narrowed her eyes. I'll ask again, who is this?
I am your god. I am Anubis.
Willow froze. She was certain she couldn't be detected. Her mental shields were always up now. But then again, this was a dream, a nightmare, so anything could happen. As impossible as it sounded, what the giant Jaffa at the mountain had said might be true. Anubis was alive. Still, something about his voice felt off. Beneath the distortion, she could almost make out another voice, though she couldn't place it.
I know why you are here. You wish to rescue your friends.
Yes.
Come unarmed, and you may yet see them.
Willow hesitated. How do I know they're still alive?
Here, I will connect you to their thoughts.
Suddenly, Willow was overwhelmed by the screams of General O'Neill, Daniel, an unknown man, and one of the Summer Sisters. Their minds echoed with agony as they were tortured by Gwaul pain sticks. Stop! Stop! I believe you! Willow cried.
Enter this dwelling unarmed and surrender yourself to my general, Anhur, the latest of a new generation of Gwaul who will reclaim this galaxy.
With no real choice, Willow decided to let the nightmare play out. Maybe she was meant to see something, do something, to wake up. Still, she concealed her combat knife in her side pocket while abandoning her other weapons. Slowly, she stepped out of the teltac and approached a nearby door. Through the frosted glass, she could see someone standing on the other side, though she couldn't make out who it was. After a moment, she opened the door cautiously. Buffy? She breathed. Before she could react, her friend swung a staff weapon and struck her across the head, knocking her unconscious.
Wake up, Willow Rosenberg, and bear witness to the destruction of the Tauri resistance.
Anubis intoned. Willow regained consciousness slowly. She found herself in what had once been the Oval Office. The walls had been torn down, transforming it into a larger chamber. Spherish, Gwaul communication devices floated at regular intervals along the perimeter of the room. Her gaze shifted to the desk where the president had once sat during her meeting earlier that day. A dark, hooded figure stood there now, staring out at the devastated city. Was it just the United States, or had he conquered the entire world?
You are awake, Willow Rosenberg.
Anubis declared, his back still turned. Willow pushed herself to her feet and quietly retrieved the knife hidden in her pocket. Step by step, she approached him. Without warning, an unseen force hurled her backward. She slammed into the far wall of the reception area before collapsing to the floor.
You should have listened when I told you to come unarmed,
Anubis remarked as he turned and advanced toward her. Willow rose slowly, studying him. She couldn't see his face beneath the opaque mask, yet something about it felt wrong. She leaned forward and attempted to rip the mask away using her telekinesis, but nothing happened. Her powers weren't working. Neither her telekinesis nor her telepathy responded. Was this part of the nightmare too? It had to be, right? This Anubis looked different from the one they had encountered as a hologram in the ancient outpost. This version didn't wear a containment shield. He seemed physical, real. The mask then was just a mask. Suddenly, Willow felt herself lifted into the air. Telekinesis? She thought, just before she was slammed back against the wall and pinned there, unable to move. Had Anubis acquired a humanoid body and gained abilities? She remembered Daniel mentioning that the ancients possessed telekinesis and telepathy among other powers. Had Anubis somehow obtained an ancient body? Then she recalled he had stolen Asgard cloning technology when he kidnapped Thor. It was entirely possible he had created a body for himself. Before she could think further, Anubis spoke.
Anhur.
The Gwaul inhabiting Buffy entered the chamber and knelt. Yes, my lord, Anhur responded.
Bring the prisoners,
Anubis commanded.
It is time I show the people of this wretched planet the futility of opposing me.
Yes, my lord, it shall be done, Anhur responded as she strode past Willow, who was struggling to move, her body still pinned to the wall. Buffy! Willow shouted. No matter what had happened between them in the Slayer Council, she did not want to see her friend like this, a host to a Gwaul. Fight it, you're the Slayer, fight it. Anhur halted, turned, and advanced toward Willow. Without hesitation, she slammed the staff weapon into Willow's chest. Willow cried out in pain before gasping for breath, her eyes locking onto Buffy. Watch your words, Tauri, Anhur warned before turning and departing. Damn it, Buffy, fight it, Willow groaned, still winded from the attack. Anhur paused again and glanced back. Her eyes glowed a whitish yellow. Nothing of the host remains, she declared before exiting the room. You should be proud of her,
Anubis remarked.
Willow turned her head toward him.
She fought with all her heart, strength, and will against my upgraded Cull warriors. But as you can see, she ultimately failed.
No, Willow shook her head. The magic users would have stopped you.
They tried,
Anubis replied.
They destroyed nearly a quarter of my forces before I released a genetically modified version of the Nishta. A strain 100 times more potent than any other was laced onto my Cull warriors and deployed into their strongholds. Once the Cull warriors were killed or disabled, the Nishta was released and began to infect those vermin slowly. They believed they could protect themselves from something they did not understand. It was pathetic to watch them struggle against it. Then they were given the order to serve their god. They now serve as spies within the resistance or as conduits to the powers of the other world.
The ancients should have stopped you, Willow insisted, shaking her head.
The principles of the ancients are weak. You know they would never interfere in the lower planes.
Anubis countered.
They have abandoned their children to face me alone, and they will not lift a finger to protect you or anyone here.
As Anubis finished speaking, Anhur re-entered the room, her footsteps echoing alongside the metallic clatter behind her. My lord, I bring you leaders of the Tauri resistance, Anhur announced as she knelt before Anubis.
Willow Rosenberg,
Anubis intoned.
take a close look at the last vestiges of the Tauri resistance, its vital components and leadership.
Willow stared in stunned disbelief as 4 prisoners were dragged into the room in shackles by 2 Jaffa, General Jack O'Neill, Don Summers, Daniel Jackson, and Henry Hayes. General! Willow cried as she struggled violently, attempting to attack telekinetically and twist free from the invisible restraints binding her limbs to the wall.
Silence!
Anubis growled. Red? O'Neill murmured as she turned towards Willow's voice. Willow's heart stopped. His eyes were gone, gouged out. She stared at 2 bloodied hollows in his weathered face. O'Neill continued. How? You're supposed to be... No, it's a trick. He shook his head. As Anubis spoke, the Jaffa dragged him toward what had once been the Oval Office. O'Neill shouted in the direction of Anubis's voice. I told you, you'll never get anything from us. Having her here as an illusion won't work. You bastard! You killed her! What? Willow cried. Sir, it's me. I'm here. Although I have to say, this is the worst nightmare ever. This isn't a nightmare, Willow, Dawn shouted as she was dragged away. Willow's gaze met Daniel's and Hayes. She wanted to scream at Anubis to release them, but something in their expressions stopped her. Their eyes burned with anger, their faces etched with pain. Daniel? Mr. President? Willow whispered. They were angry at her. Why?
Silence!
Anubis roared as he lifted O'Neill into the air before slamming him violently onto the ground. Willow flinched, squeezing her eyes shut at the sickening crunch. Slowly, she forced them open to see Anhur yanking O'Neill upright by his hair, forcing him into a kneeling position. Buffy, please don't do this, Dawn pleaded. Silence, Tauri, Anhur commanded. Beg Lord Anubis, and he may yet spare your life. No, Dawn snarled. Give me back my sister. Anhur merely smiled as she approached Anubis. My lord, everything has been prepared. The planet-wide broadcast connection is active. The communication spheres in the Oval Office shimmered to life, revealing panicked crowds across the world. Willow could only watch helplessly. Anubis stepped forward, positioning himself meters away from the prisoners before addressing the broadcast. People of the Tauri,
behold the leaders of your resistance. Let what happens now serve as a reminder. Any challenge to me will be met with devastating force. Here stands your first leader, the supreme commander of your resistance, General Jack O'Neill.
Willow watched in horror as O'Neill was lifted into the air by Anubis's telekinetic grip.
Beg for your life, General,
Anubis demanded. Put him down! Willow screamed. Helpless, she watched as the general turned his head toward her. This isn't your fault, Red, O'Neill said. I don't blame you for any of this. I should have done more to protect you. What are you talking about, sir? I don't understand. Willow struggled. This is a nightmare. A literal nightmare. You're alive in the real world. You're alive. This is a nightmare. I'm gonna wake. Dawn twisted around and shouted, This isn't a nightmare. Willow shook her head, confusion overwhelming her.
Goodbye, General,
Anubis murmured before snapping O'Neill's neck with a brutal twist. The crack echoed through the room as Willow screamed. Anubis then hurled the body out the window before turning his attention to Daniel. No! Willow screamed as she turned toward Anhur. Buffy, I know you're in there. Fight it. He'll kill everyone. He'll kill you once he's done. He doesn't share power with anyone. There's a reason the System Lords cast him out 1,000 years ago. Stop this madness. Anubis laughed before continuing.
Now, I give you the chief historian of the Resistance and the leader of the Washington chapter of the Resistance, Dr. Daniel Jackson and Henry Hayes, the former president of the Tauri.
Get away from them, Willow screamed. This was a literal nightmare. She knew it. She felt it. Still, she needed to do something. Anything. Anubis ignored Willow's outburst as he raised his hands over Daniel's and Hayes' heads. "You're not you, are you, Willow?" Daniel asked, his voice echoing. Anubis's hands remained poised, as if allowing Daniel to speak his final words. "I don't understand." "Close your eyes, Willow," Daniel urged. Willow could hear the strain in his voice as he fought to remain steady. "You have to prevent this from happening again. You need to go back." "What are you talking about? I've been trying to wake up from this nightmare." Daniel shook his head. "This isn't a nightmare, Willow. You need to go back now." "What do you mean this isn't a nightmare?" Willow shouted. "Go back where?" Before Willow could get an answer, she saw Anubis gathering whitish gray energy in both palms. It grew rapidly until he thrust it forward, sending it through the heads of both Daniel and Hayes. "No, you sick bastard!" Willow screamed as the two headless bodies collapsed backward onto the floor. Ignoring her, Anubis advanced toward the last member of the resistance, Dawn.
"And now, people of the Tauri,
Anubis announced into the devices.
I present the final leader of the resistance, the one in charge of the strategy, the most problematic of them all, the one betrayed by her own flesh and blood. She will finally pay the price. Dawn Summers, do you have anything you wish to say?"
"Go screw yourself," Dawn growled, glaring up at him. "Buffy!" Willow shouted. "She's your sister. Help her. Damn it, help her." Dawn glanced over her shoulder at Willow. Sadness filled her eyes as she spoke. "You need to stop this, Willow. Stop it all."
"Dawn Summers."
Anubis intoned. Dawn turned back toward him. Anubis stepped aside.
"You will not perish by my hand. I reserve that honor for my greatest general, the one who led the annihilation of the Tok'ra remnants, Anhur."
Willow watched in horror as Anhur stepped forward and knelt before Anubis. "Thank you for this great honor, my lord." Anhur rose, turned, and aimed her staff weapon at Dawn's head. Willow shouted, "Buffy, stop! Please, it's your sister. You're murdering your sister in cold blood." Anhur gave no response as she steadied her aim. Willow softened, her voice trembling despite its silence. "Buffy, you're in there. I know you are. You are the Slayer. You defeated the Master. You defeated Adam. You defeated Spike. You destroyed the Initiative. You overcame the Unmaker. You can beat a snake in your head. Now fight!" Willow saw Dawn lower her head, crying as Anhur activated the staff weapon, the tip unfolding with a mechanical hiss. "Buffy," Willow whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. "Fight it." Willow squeezed her eyes shut just as Anhur fired at point-blank range. She only opened them when she heard the dull thud of a body hitting the floor.
"People of the Tauri, let this be a lesson,"
Anubis declared.
"Surrender what remains of the resistance, and you will live. Refuse, and I will ensure you suffer a fate worse than death."
He turned and all the communication devices shut down. "My lord," Anhur reported, "the planet-wide feed has been deactivated."
"Take these vermin out of my sight."
Anubis commanded. "Yes, my lord." Anhur replied, turning sharply. "Jaffa, 3! Willow watched as 6 more Jaffa entered the room and carried out the bodies of O'Neill, Hayes, Daniel, and Dawn. "My lord," Anhur continued, gesturing toward Willow, "what are your orders for this female?"
"Leave her to me."
Anubis answered.
"Find my queen and inform her that more symbiotes are required for implantation into the new Jaffa. Then take ships and capture more of the Asgard protected planets. Those cowards dare not oppose us after the death of Thor and their ongoing war with the replicators."
"Yes, my lord," Anhur acknowledged with a nod before hurrying away. The vast room fell silent, empty now save for the two of them, Willow and Anubis. "You cruel bastard!" Willow shouted just before an unseen force yanked her forward. She stopped inches from him, her body suspended helplessly in midair.
"You are weak, Willow Rosenberg,
Anubis murmured, brushing his fingers along her cheek.
but do not worry. You will be mine once again, and I will make you stronger, more powerful."
"What? What are you talking about?" Willow demanded. "What do you mean by again?" Willow stared as Anubis lowered his hood, revealing red hair and a face hidden behind a tight-fitting, opaque mask.
"You are already demonstrating some of your power, bringing your consciousness forward to this moment."
Anubis explained, slowly removing the mask. As it came away, his voice shifted, becoming unmistakably female. "Familiar, very impressive, but you have far more potential than you realize. And I will unlock it." "No!" Willow recoiled, horrified. "That's impossible. I would have rather died." She found herself staring into a pair of familiar green eyes. The lips, The cheekbones, the structure, her own face stared back at her, twisted into a sneer. This is a nightmare. Willow shook her head frantically. Just a nightmare. Just a nightmare. Just a nightmare. I am Anubis, Willow Rosenberg, the figure declared, pulling her closer. And I will have your powers, your mind, and your body. No! Willow screamed. Her eyes snapped open as she bolted upright in bed, gasping for breath. She looked around wildly, only to find herself back in her hotel room. To be continued.